Joel, good morning. Thanks for hanging out with us and for getting up.
Yeah, you bet. Absolutely.
I thanked you for getting up. I just realized I did that. We really appreciate you waking up today. Let's start with the obvious question. Did the committee get the top four right off the bat?
You can argue that the top four is just fine. And even if you go, back to about the top 7 or 8, is it fine? Yeah, it's probably okay. I think LSU is a little bit overrated at this point after getting shut out at home and dominated the fashion that they did at home. But the problem with the rankings is more in the back end, and that's what I always tend to focus on because remember now, it's like Thanksgiving, and the gravy at Thanksgiving. Ooh. The gravy's not the gravy unless the recipe is perfect. And right now, the recipe is being made from 10 to 25. And when you look at 10 to 25, what you see is that the ACC is severely, almost astonishingly overrated. When you look at some of these teams in the back end of the poll right now, Syracuse is probably the most overrated team in the country right now. They're on average, if you look at, let me just say that, if you look at the FPI, which is a great computer poll, if you look at the Sagarin ratings, which is a great computer poll, and you look at S&P Plus, which is a great computer poll, what you do is you average those three out, and then you look at what the committee did. And Syracuse is ranked, on average, 34 spots higher than what the computers rank them at. 34 spots. That's an astonishing number. In fact, the ACC as a whole, even including Clemson, is ranked 17 spots higher on average than they are in those computers. The ACC is getting love that they don't deserve. They play 8 conference games, and quite frankly, all those teams in the back end have done, like Syracuse, North Carolina State, and Boston College, have beat each other. So it's like, okay, let's get on the merry-go-round, but have you beaten anybody outside of that? And the answer is no. In particular, when you're taking a look at a conference that has a loss to Indiana in the non-conference, and when a Boston College lost to Purdue, why isn't Purdue ranked versus a team like Boston College? So that's where my problem comes in. And ultimately, the way that affects this is that Clemson is virtually a lock to make the playoff because it's been cooked in for them in the back end of the rankings.
All right, I'm going to ignore all that shade you just threw at my alma mater and move on to the teams people actually care about.
Hey, it's
Alabama,
just data.
Clemson.
You appreciate data. It's just data.
Yeah, data. Listen, you alluded to it there. You tweeted out you think there's only 2 spots left. Do you believe Alabama and Clemson are essentially locks already?
Basically, I think Clemson is a lock. It's going to take an upset of monumental proportions to beat Clemson, and even with a loss, I think that they might sneak in anyways. Having said that, I think Alabama maybe is a team that has to go undefeated, and the reason I say that is this. I think that people would be taking a cyanide pill if they wanted to get 2 SEC teams into this playoff. And Alabama, as great as they've been, and I think they're historically great, Nick, historically great, in particular on offense with Tua, who I think is likely going to win the Heisman Trophy. Having said all of that, if you get 2 SEC teams in, I think that the playoff implodes on itself, and you have to go to 8 very quickly. So the people rooting for 8 like you are going to hope that Alabama loses in the end. I think that this year, you're going to see more emphasis put on the conference championships. So I think a team like Michigan, if they were to win out with a win in Columbus and then in Indianapolis in the Big Ten championship, would maybe pass Alabama if Alabama were to not win their conference championship, just based on the sentiment of where the commissioners are and where people around college football are right now when it comes to getting 2 teams in from the same conference. I don't think there's a large appetite from that from the people in the power structure of college football. So I think that you would see some jockeying and a team like Michigan potentially pass Alabama in a scenario like you're suggesting.
Well, Joel, you took my question. I was going to talk about Michigan potentially jumping Notre Dame, even though they lost to Notre Dame in that opening week. Man, I got to go to UCF, totally off the board. Give me quick. Are they going to get some serious consideration for being in the top 4?
Probably not. I think last year was their better shot. They were, frankly, a better team last year, CC. They had more NFL draft picks. This year, they're just getting by on a really weak schedule up to this point. In fact, you look at a team that's been outgained in their last 3 games. They're tied for 5th worst in penalties in the country. They just gave up 670 yards at home to a Temple team who set a school record with those 670 yards. Now, they escaped and they won. That's all well and good. Not all schedules are made equal. And right now, UCF is doing a great job. They're a really good team that's probably going to go to a New Year's 6 game. But they're not going to get consideration for the playoff, and rightly so. They shouldn't get consideration. Whether you have 2 different standards, 4 best or 4 most deserving, UCF would not fall in under either of those.
All right, Joel, how does the Pac-12 or the Big 12 get a team in the top 4 this year?
Well, first you start with a little prayer. And then you go from there. I think Oklahoma's the best shot for those two conferences, quite frankly, and I think that they're going to need probably a Syracuse win over Notre Dame in Yankee Stadium in that neutral site game, probably a Michigan loss at Ohio State or in the Big Ten championship game, and then you can start talking about potentially one of those conferences getting in. I don't think the Pac-12 has any shot whatsoever, even with Washington State. I think Oklahoma is the best shot from those two conferences. They're going to have to win out, and that's going to likely be, by the way, back-to-back games against West Virginia. West Virginia hosts Oklahoma the last week of the regular season. Then they'll probably play a rematch that next week in the Big 12 championship game. All
right, Joel, last week you and Gus got another classic involving Texas. This one didn't end with Dicker the kicker. This one ended with Will Grier going horns down. Right. I think Tom Herman might still be complaining about it. I'm not sure. Did you have a big issue with Will Grier's celebration after the game clinching two-point conversion?
No, I didn't have a problem at all. And by the way, they were penalized for it. You know, and I think what Tom Herman was complaining about is that he held the ball out from about the 2-yard line going in, and he thought that maybe that was like a taunt from that point. You can see the play here, and he kind of holds the ball out like this right before he gets into the end zone, and Tom Herman's complaining about that. I'm like, come on, man. Listen, your team played really well. Texas did, and they got beat. They got beat fair and square by a better quarterback. Will Grier played outstanding. That throw to Gary Jennings in the back of the end zone was incredible. I didn't have any problem with it whatsoever. By the way, he goes horns down, gets a penalty for it, which is what allowed Texas to even have a shot later. There was about, I think, 18 seconds left when all of a sudden Texas gets the ball at the 40 with the wind. To me, Texas had a shot because he went horns down even after that two-point conversion. So I don't really understand what Tom Herman is complaining about. Are you really whining that he stuck the ball out at the 1-yard line? Is that really, like, are we serious about that, Tom Herman? Come on, man, take a lap with that one.
Miss me with that, Joe. Thank you. We're looking forward to your call on Saturday. Buckeyes facing Michigan State. Joel, a lot of people, they're criticizing the Buckeyes. That we know things have gone wrong for them in the last month. I think it started long before last month, like last season. Give me your perspective on what's going on with the Buckeyes now.
Okay, so with Ohio State, what you've got right now is a team that runs very risky schematics, in particular on the defensive side. And in order to do that, you've got to have great players. And they've had that over the last couple of years. You look at all those first-round draft picks out of the secondary and even up front. Nick Bosa is now no longer up there up front rushing the quarterback. And they're trying to run some of those same schemes. I actually think they need to get more basic on defense, start moving less up front, and just play like we would see a Northwestern play. Earn your way down the field. That's what I would tell the opposing offense. Snap it 10 or 12 times, and we don't think that you're going to be able to do that. But right now, they're running a lot of man coverage. They're running a lot of stunts up front, and they're creating some gaps for the opposition, and that's where those big plays come in. Now, they did get a guy, Brendan White, to come in the ballgame at safety, and he played really well. So I'm looking forward to seeing him on the field this week when I get to East Lansing. And then on the offensive side, CC, it comes down to this. If you can't run the football, you're going to struggle. And they were just a pure passing team for a number of weeks. They finally got the run game on track last week against Nebraska, rushing for over 200 yards. In particular, in the second half, they did a really nice job. It comes down to two things. Their running backs are not patient enough right now, and the offensive line doesn't get to the second level. If you can't get the linebackers blocked, you're not going to have a great shot at running the football for any amount of consistency. They've got to get those two things fixed before they can move forward and potentially beat a team like Michigan in that last week of the regular season.
All right, Joe, I'm going to give you a nugget here. No one else knows this. It hadn't been spoken, all right? You're the first person. You ready for this?
Let's do it. Come on.
Brendan White. He's my godson.
Huh? Ooh.
All right.
How about that?
Tell America who Brendan White is, see?
Brendan White is a defensive back who filled in this week, had a great game for the Buckeyes.
Great game.
My college roommate, William White, is his father, and I was asked to be the godfather.
Hey, Joel.
Oh, my God. How about that for Nuggets right now? Hey,
Joel.
You ain't lying. He played great. You know what he did? He came in there and tackled well. He was exceptional. He was physical. He tackled near the line of scrimmage. He was downhill.
Yeah.
They're very excited about him, and rightfully
just like
so.
his dad.
I just watched
was
the
a
film
four-year
last night. He
starter
was
at the
terrific.
Buckeyes. Actually started before me. That's the one thing he likes to hold over my head. I started even before you.
We gotta go, Joel.
Offensive
Thanks so
coaches,
much
they didn't
for being
know.
with us. Much
You
more
bet.
First Things
Godson.
First.
CC's
Right after
Godson.
this.
I've got it ready right here. I'm writing it down.
Yeah, give that to Gus. I think Gus can put a little enunciation, put a little action on that one, and we should see that on Saturday.
You know
Thank you, Joel.
Thanks,
See you
Paul.
guys.
Thanks for watching. Subscribe here to get the latest from the show. Also, be sure to check out more of the best clips from First Things First, or go watch a few segments from our other shows on FS1.